Hello and welcome to From the Be-All End. I'm Simon Evans and I'm joined by Chris Bowden, Paul Woodhouse and Justin Connolly as we catch up with the past week's events. It does feel like a long week. It's a week since we've been here. A long week, but not a lot has happened. But there actually is surprisingly plenty to talk about. So how are we doing, gentlemen? Are we ready for some lively Clarets chat?
Yes.
Yes. You bigged that up and you bigged it down, Sam. Well done. Yeah.
Right, let's start off by finishing off with the last bit, hopefully the last bit of Vincent Kompany news we ever have to deal with. But he did get a little bit of stick for never having mentioned even Burnley at any stage during his Bayern Munich press conference or any of the media he'd done, and just for leaving the club without a word. He's obviously got that message and did a little video where he doesn't look at the camera very much and doesn't really say a great deal in it, I thought. And then there was a written statement as well. But let's start off with Woody. What were your impressions of VK finally deciding to address the B word?
Yeah, it was like a hostage video, wasn't it? You know, it was definitely under duress. Bloody hell. You know, it was nice. It was nice how, again, he managed to turn it to himself. And I'm just looking at the quote in particular. The best way for me to describe how I lived it is that I gave everything back. Does he mean that he didn't steal anything from the office? I've no idea. And then just mentioned Blackburn and that was it. You know, thanks for coming. So,
yeah,
thanks,
it did feel a bit forced to me. Justin, what were your impression of it?
It was just more of the same old nonsense, wasn't it, that we've been subjected to for the last sort of few months. I think, you know, you've got a guy there who spent the last 12 months trying to convince everybody to buy into this project that he's got going on. And then at the end of the day, it all turns out to be nonsense, and he's off at the first, you know, available opportunity. And like Woody says, it's like, it looks to me like providing some sort of closing statement was part of his severance package that he was forced to, and he was forced to fulfill in some way, because he don't really say anything, does he? You know, I think an apology would be in order, wouldn't it? That would be the first thing you'd expect from him. You know, I'm like, if he just sort of said, "I'm really sorry that I've had to go, but you know, it was an offer I couldn't refuse." If he just said that would have been something, wouldn't it? But
I wonder why he didn't say that. I mean,
well, I don't know. It's hard to understand most of the things he said over the last few months. I mean, he barely acknowledged that we got relegated, didn't he? And you know, it's that part of it is the thing that's. I mean, I didn't want him to leave. I wanted him to see it through and see what we could come up with this season. But also, I'm not really sorry to see him go, because that he just seems to be living in some sort of fantasy world where reality doesn't matter, and that last statement from him just confirms everything that I thought. It none of it makes any sense, does it? And it ends up being an insult rather than, you know, any sort of words of consolation to Burnley fans.
Chris, did you take it as an insult?
I won't go as far as that, but I did feel the attempts to endear himself with the Burnley fans by mentioning both Blackburn games, that came across as a bit forced to me. Then, yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah, you win the league at Ewood. It's magnificent. It's, you know, it's never been done before in that, you know, the oldest rivalry in the Football League, and it's, you know, the home win was great as well, but there were so many fabulous moments over the course of that season, and it just felt a bit like, you know, I think he always mentions the derbies when he talks about, you know, the city days, isn't it? You know, they obviously he scored the header against United, and it was a big moment. But I'm just glad, you know, as I said last week, I think he's a gentleman. Certainly from my brief experience of him, and I did think there would be a message, and, you know, at least there was. But yeah, again, there's no sort of no semblance of just sort of saying, listen, it's a fair cop. I couldn't turn this down. It's Bayern Munich after all, and, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, we couldn't stay in the Premier League. It was all again, more about him than the fans that are left, just absolutely scratching their heads about a bizarre season.
Yeah, I mean, as journalists, we get quite a lot of statements sent to us, don't we? And you read them, and after a few years of reading statements every day, you sort of work out what they're trying to do with these things. And normally, there's a goal behind it. There's a reason why they're stressing certain things and emphasizing others and so on. And you would think in something like this that he would be wanting to just damage repair, just to basically make the fans feel good about themselves, make the fans feel good about the club, and make them think, oh, he's a decent bloke, really. He might have buggered off to Bayern Munich, but he was all right. You can't blame him, really, and all that kind of stuff. And there was just none of that. It was all about himself, and which I find really revealing, to be honest, because the easiest thing to say would have been, you backed me from the word go. I cannot believe it. In all my experiences of football, it's up there as one of the most, emotional things I've had is to have that Burnley fans behind me. And I'm sure whoever the next man is going to benefit from that as well and all that. He's not gone to a direct rival. He's gone to another league, so he can say all the best wishes for Burnley he wants. It's not like he's in charge of a rival next season or something. So I found it extreme. Yeah. Go on, Chris.
Well, just to even have some semblance of what the opportunity he's just had. He was taken from Anderlecht, having not really pulled any trees up, and he's taken charge of a proud, historic football club here. Founder members of the Football League. With all this glorious history, and just to sort of say I'm really proud that my name has been associated with Burnley Football Club. As with, I love Anderlecht, I love Hamburg, I love Manchester City, and I really, Burnley's in my heart, sort of thing. You want that sort of thing, don't you?
Exactly.
Again, it's just there's nothing of the sort, really.
But it doesn't strike me as a sentimental sort, and so in a way, this is very authentic to Vincent. He's not going to apologise for it. He's done what he's done. He's moved on. Suck it up, buttercup, and that's essentially what he's saying. And it seems to be, if we can read between the lines, what certain other people have said, on the grapevine, that's how he treated players and selection, etc. And this seems, on par for that type of sentiment. I don't see him as a sentimentalist and very much a pragmatist, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's also true. Yeah. How were you manager? I'm not now. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's take that attitude then.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. We're moving on. We're not going to talk about you for a good while, I think. Right. Well, the job of replacing him is ongoing, we presume. The speculation was in a sort of immediate frenzy, wasn't it? With all sorts of names coming out. As soon as that first bookmakers list comes out, then everyone starts going wild and overreacting and so on. That has calmed down a little bit. We're not seeing or hearing as much about people like Frank Lampard and Scott Parker as we were a week ago. Where do you think this? We don't know where they are at the moment, but Chris, where do you sense they might be going with this?
I think we've got our man. I think he's even spoken about it this week. Alan Pardew. If he sticks his head above the parapet, that's signed and sealed. Done and dusted, that. Got your man there. But no, I'm just joking aside. Where on earth have they dug that up from? It's just absolute. Like I say, we're looking at Burnley with Alan Pace, and they've gone out and they've signed, a young, a young manager in Vincent who. They're looking at the project. They want exciting young players who they can develop. Where on earth does Alan Pardew fit into that? It's just, I don't know. It's just absolutely staggering. And then, he gets asked the question on Talk Sport, and Well, of course he's going to say he'd be interested. I'd be interested in being manager of Burnley Football Club. But no, nobody's asked me the question yet. So it just it is what it is, isn't it? But it's sort of settling down a bit. It looks like it's a bit of a domino effect. I think a lot of people sort of are waiting on the outcome of who takes the reins at Leicester. Whether that's Steve Cooper. If that's Steve Cooper, fine. I say I'd love it to have been Steve Cooper, but it appears unlikely. But if Cooper's not going to Leicester, if Cooper's going to Leicester, Ruud van Nistelrooy isn't, and he's very keen on taking a job, either in England or Spain after his playing time in those countries. Knows the Northwest well, obviously from I think it's 5 years at Manchester United, and his record again working with young players of potential. He worked with Branthwaite last season on loan. He's worked with Gakpo. He's worked with Xavi Simons. He's worked with Madueke, who's ended up going to Chelsea, and did a very good job. He got to Eindhoven back into the Champions League and won a cup, and by all sounds, he's quite that sort of progressive, young coach. He's a name, anyone. Any of those young lads who signed last summer, the summer before, be Ruud van Nistelrooy walks into the dressing room. I think everyone knows. Whoa, bloody hell! He's a Galactico at the end of the day, and I'd like to see. I'd like to see a bit. So it'd be one that would excite the Burnley fans.
He's definitely a name and definitely got that excitement factor about him, hasn't he? Justin, what's your thoughts on Ruud?
Well, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? You could take it one of two ways, couldn't you? This appointment, you could try and find somebody in a similar sort of vein as Kompany to, carry on the project, and Ruud certainly fits the bill on that score, doesn't he? You need what they're after really is a name, isn't it? As somebody who they can sell to investors. I think that's really important. That's one of the reasons why I think they went for Kompany in the first place. I mean, not that the investors they target in America would necessarily know who these people are, but once you look up who's Ruud van Nistelrooy, and you see who he's played for, you see what his record is, and you see what kind of stature he's got in the game. He's up there at the similar sort of level to Kompany, isn't he? And they kind of, anybody's going to be impressed by that. The other direction you could go in is to bring an old head in, someone like Moyes that we talked about before, to sort of bring a bit more structure to it and a bit more kind of put the pieces together in a bit more of a structured way rather than sort of winging it like we seem to be doing at the moment. But also, if you're going for continuity, Craig Bellamy's still on the list of potential managers, and he's quite high up in the list with the bookies. I know that doesn't mean that much because these things can be swayed by not much, but so I don't know. I wouldn't be advocating for Bellamy. I don't think. I don't really want more of the same. I want somebody to come in and do a good job instead of making a complete hash of it, as we've seen over the last 12 months. So I don't know whether, Bellamy's influence over it is something that I'd want to see go forward. I think Van Nistelrooy's got all the qualities that you would expect them to be looking for, and I think that's a good shout.
I mean, there would have been a time, wouldn't there, where the idea of someone like Ruud van Nistelrooy becoming Burnley manager was pretty much unthinkable, whereas now it wouldn't be a shock, would it?
No, it wouldn't. Not at all. And he's in that weird nether region, isn't he? There's enough to get excited about, but not quite enough to shit on him, which is kind of what we want. We don't want to get too upset about him as yet. There's not enough history there for us to start mourning about him, Frank. And I think
that though, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think it'd be probably a fabulous option, like a lot of them would be. But I think one thing that could wind up being quite interesting is what goes on over the next month with who's selling what and who from these various clubs, at the bottom end of the Premiership, then, does Leicester suddenly look like a bit of a toxic position if you have to sell everybody and they're going to get a 10-point deduction straight off the bat? Maybe not. So we might become a very good option.
No, absolutely. I think we're an excellent option, aren't we? In that a lot of people will still look at the squad, even though the performance was bad. There is a sort of consensus out there that Burnley are good enough to bounce back if they can keep the bulk of that squad together. So it's a very attractive job. It's the Lampard one. I must admit, I felt a bit uneasy with some of the sort of vitriol from some of the Burnley fans. The sort of very strong, we don't want this guy anywhere near the club, because I think I'm not. As I said at the time, I thought it wouldn't be top of my list, but I don't think he'd have been a terrible choice either. But it doesn't look like he's that kind of guy they're going for. I mean, as Woody just said, he's probably done too much already. If he was coming from, taking Derby to the playoff and losing in the final, we'd probably say it's a great appointment. But because he's had that spell at Everton, he's now damaged goods apparently. But I do hope he gets back into the game. I watched that interview he did, and I think you did as well, didn't you, Woody? The Diary of a CEO interview. It's a 2-hour podcast. He's a very good interviewer he's with, but he comes over very well, doesn't he, Paul?
Yeah, exactly. And I think most managers should have something like that on their CV so that we can take a look and see who they are, what they're like, and just take a step back and have a look at their actual record before we make these ridiculous snap judgments on he's a bag of shit because he nearly took Everton down. Anybody nearly took Everton down those 2 particular seasons. They're a toxic club. We've understood how bad Everton are since. And we forget that he also took Chelsea to the Champions League under a transfer embargo and having to play with a load of kids. There's a lot to be said for, Frank, as to what he's done. And he went back to Chelsea in that little second spell, and that was a poison chalice as well. And that shows that he does have an semblance of loyalty to a club. And like I say, he came across extremely well in that interview. But yeah, it's not my top choice either. But I'd be more than happy with him. Let's put it that way.
Chris, if Steve Cooper didn't go to Leicester City and was suddenly back in the fray, let's say Woody's theory that Leicester's become a bit of a toxic option because of the financial situation and possible penalty points and so on, and you had Cooper and Van Nistelrooy, both possibilities, where would you lean on those two?
Probably Cooper, just because he's actually been here and done it in this country. Like I said last week, he's he has actually led a team out of the Championship and assembled the parts of a squad that that looked like it wasn't put together altogether by him, and kept them in the league. But someone as he mentioned on Twitter this week, said, well, he doesn't play this progressive attacking football that you want. Well, I think he sort of tempered that in the Premier League. He's got that pragmatism where Kompany didn't. That he in the Championship very much so, and the intention was there in the Premier League. And when they start shipping goals, he sort of he, rather than Kompany and just carrying on well, we're just going to carry on trying to attack teams and to hell with it. He found a solution. They became better defensively, and they played counter-attacking football. And they might, rather than trying to win games 3-2 or 4-3, they were trying to nick games 1-0, 2-1. But it just shows, as a coach who can adapt, and I think he'd be absolutely tailor-made. But I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at Ruud van Nistelrooy. But everyone wants the postmodern hipsterish. We all want these tactical geniuses. That's where Lampard falls down. Because I think he's. I'm probably being a bit unfair to him now, but to me, he falls under his Uncle Harry. In that he's and say, well, look, I'm doing him a disservice there, but he didn't strike me as a great tactical brain, and he spells at at Everton and Chelsea sort of ended a bit ignominiously, really. But
Yeah. Are there any other names knocking around? Is there anybody? It seems to have sort of crystallised
Gone
around.
quiet, hasn't it? This past
Yeah.
it went bonkers last weekend. Everybody's getting mentioned, and nobody seems to have been mentioned properly this week. I don't know.
The odds list hasn't changed that much. Seeing all these names, though, I'm coming to the conclusion that the only way they can appoint somebody that isn't going to annoy me intensely is if it's somebody I've never heard of that I have absolutely zero expectations of.
It's all right. TalkSport, TalkSport will have us taking Neil Warnock next. Don't worry about
that. It is true though that they get when the name comes out, it gets debated so quickly and so intensely online. And people who have an instinct against an appointment will go and do their research and chuck it online and tell you everything that's shit about them. So you're right. It's very difficult to get a sort of clean, pure enthusiasm for somebody. I mean, I do wonder, like, the one factor is, if you get in the room, and that must be why people like Alan Pardew throw their hat in the ring, is that knowledge that if you get in the room with a club owner, and we all know that club owners, I'm not talking particularly about ours, just in general, can be swayed by strange things, can't they? And they can be convinced by somebody in a room with a PowerPoint presentation that uses the right buzzwords. I mean, we've all heard stories about people who got jobs they shouldn't have got because they used the right buzzword in a meeting. I've done it myself a long, long time ago once, just stumbled across a phrase that I didn't know was going to be like absolutely crucial. Afterwards, they said, "Oh, you did. It was a good point bringing that up." You can imagine if Alan Pardew got into a room with Alan Pace and smooth talked him or something, that's why he's thrown his hat in the ring, isn't it? He might be able to convince him. I mean, what it comes down to is who can convince Alan Pace, who then can convince the board.
Yeah, but he'll definitely want a name, won't he? He'll want somebody he can sell, and he'll want somebody he can go to the investors and say, "Look, this legend of the game is managing it." I mean, I know to some people, Alan Pardew is a legend of the game. But
in his own mind.
We can bring up that gif of him dancing at Wembley and show that to the potential investors. That'll impress.
That would have done it for me. You know what I mean? A little Alan Pardew lap dance.
Yeah, but he needs that. He needs somebody who. Woody, why have you done that?
He's killed it.
Always the way. Yeah,
that's the end of Alan Pardew.
So you want to move away from someone like that, to somebody who you can who will impress people by their stature in the game, and it's not Alan Pardew, is it? Not at this stage.
Oh no, it's not. No, I mean the names I'm hearing floating around that we discussed today, Van Nistelrooy seems the most exciting one to me. It really does, doesn't it? And you can see it makes sense for Van Nistelrooy. He left PSV Eindhoven of his own choice, didn't he? He wasn't happy with the way things had gone at that club. He'll be itching to get back into it. Coming for your first job in England into a team that's at the top end, expected to be at the top end of the Championship, expected to get promoted back to the Premier League, is a great way to get yourself into English football. It really is.
Yeah, and I think he left because he said he didn't get the correct backing from the board or the ownership or whatever. I think that's something he's definitely not going to lack if he gets the job at Burnley.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, let's see.
Yeah, let's say I'm just looking at Pardew just out of interest. He leaves.
You change your mind.
He leaves West. No. I'll just say he leaves West Brom in dubious circumstances after 8 successive defeats. I think the last one was against us when Barnsley scored that magnificent volley. But he's gone to Den Haag and done out. Mutually agreed not to extend his contract. CSKA Sofia. He left there in. He felt his assistant was being racially abused, but he then pops up in Greece, Aris Thessaloniki, those giants of European football, signs a 1-year contract in the September, and leaves by mutual consent again in the February. Now, which bit of those, that these recent CV suggests he's going to get a job with, a club that's in the last 3 seasons in the Championship have won it, been promoted from it rather, champions the last 2 and been in the Premier League in 8 out of the last 10 years. It just only in his own mind can that exist. I think that's sort of speculation.
He's going to have to rely on his lap dancing skills.
Right, enough of Alan Pardew. Right,
let's move on.
A couple of bits of player news.
Alan Partridge and his lap dancing skills.
Monkey
it sounds like Laurent Zassignon is going to be staying in France, Chris, doesn't it? Is that the latest indications?
Yeah, I mean he put out a message, didn't he, on social media the other week that reading between the lines suggested that was that. It was goodbye, and sort of French reporters this week seem to be suggesting that that there is the option there to sign him for €10 million, but he wants to see what other opportunities are available to him. If he returns to Rennes, where he was not getting a kick, he's got another contract for another 3 years there. So his future looks bleak at Rennes. It's whether he's done sufficient in 16 games or so to earn a move. I've got to be honest. I'd be surprised if another Premier League club takes a fancy, but it's one of those. Let's say Burnley. They've already we've got a right back in place, certainly on a free transfer. Name escapes me off the top of my head at the moment, but still Vitinho, still Connor Roberts, and I don't think we'll miss him, to be brutally honest. He did pretty well, but we sort of seized on that. His bubbly, infectious character earlier on, but it had sort of turned by the end, and it when Dar Rocher's picking him up off the floor after he's been rolling around, and the amount of times he dropped to the ground, crying wolf when teams were attacking, just infuriated a few Burnley fans towards the end. But never mind, onward and upwards, as they say.
Yeah, Woody, you must be distraught. You were definitely the Laurent Zassignon fan club on this show.
Yes, I really don't know what to say about it. It did get a bit dramatic towards the end, didn't it, though? So I think he could be quite exceptional in the Championship. That's all I'll say. I'd rather have him than Connor Roberts.
I mean, the other transfer rumor going around. I mean, there's going to be so much of this, especially once we get past the actual end of the month. But James Trafford being linked as well with a number of clubs: Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Bayern Munich of all people. Justin, where do you think Trafford's going to end up, if anywhere?
Well, he's got a bit of time in his hands now, hasn't he? After they've dropped him, he won't be going to Germany, so he'll be able to spend a little bit of time puzzling out where his future lies. I'd be very surprised if he's still a Burnley player come the end of this process. He probably doesn't want to drop down and play in the Championship, does he? And I think, if I'm completely honest, I wouldn't expect him to be starting in the Championship if we hold on to Muric, which I hope we do. So I can't see him wanting to be second fiddle in the Championship. And I think if we can get back the money that we paid for him, I'd be snatching people's hands off to get him off our books and get that money in the coffers and spent elsewhere. Where we need it. We didn't. In hindsight, I mean, I think we were all quite excited when, after his performance in the Euros for the under-21s, I think we were really excited to be signing a player like that. It's a sort of signing that Burnley never really has done in the past, and spending all that money on a goalkeeper when we already had a great goalkeeper seemed like a sign of our intent not to rest on our laurels. I think it backfired a little bit because I don't think he didn't achieve what we expected him to achieve. I think that was partly down to the way he was handled. But that money, if we can recoup some of it, that money would be much better spent elsewhere in the squad. Specifically, we need to sign a left back, don't we? Eventually, we're going to have to do it sooner or later. So, I'd happily see him go. Only if we hold on to Muric, but I can't see him leaving at this stage either.
Yeah, it's a strange situation where we may have a Burnley goalkeeper who was going to be the backup in the Championship, and most people agreeing he should be the number two, heading off to one of the top clubs in Europe, whoever it is. I mean, there's other clubs have been linked with him. You can argue maybe Newcastle isn't a top club in Europe, but pretty all the rest of them are. It's a pretty strange situation, isn't it?
Well,
right.
We've just seen our manager, who was hardly pulled up the trees last season, be poached by one of the top clubs in Europe. So now we're living in that world. Anything's possible.
Yeah, brand of Burnley, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if he wants to spend 30 million to replace Manuel Neuer with James Trafford, I think he'll find Burnley will be willing to sit down and discuss that possibility.
Yes, we'll pull his pants down on that one.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Coming up now is you'll have heard about the TST, the soccer tournament in North Carolina. Well, our mate Vizeh, the YouTube sensation and Burnley's #1 content creator, is out there. He's actually been playing in it. And I caught up with him for a little natter about what it's all been like playing with JJ Watt and Chris Eagles and the Burnley team in that tournament, and the whole scene around that as Burnley seek to sort of boost their profile in the United States through what is essentially a fun 7-a-side competition. So that's coming up right now. Thanks very much, gents. So Liam, thanks for joining us from North Carolina and taking time out of your preparations for your game this evening. You've had a couple of matches already. We're talking to you on Thursday ahead of our recording of the podcast. Tell us what it's been like there. I mean, it looks a pretty amazing event to be involved in.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely obscene. The weather is beautiful, but quite different to the Burnley weather, I would say. I can get used to this over here. It's really humid, really hot, and it's a really good atmosphere to be around. It's a really great event, organised fantastically. Everyone's friendly down here. Maybe it's that southern hospitality, the friendliness of the people. I really like it over here. And it's been a complete maddening 2-3 days for me on a personal level, kind of being thrown into the real world of professional footballers, and it's a completely different experience to what I imagined. And I've kind of been in a kind of like trance-like state for a good chunk of it, just kind of disconnecting from the inner fan within, of trying to not come across like a fanboy when talking to like the Chris Eagles and Marvin Bartley, who's honestly fantastic. The lads here have treated me really well. The academy boys and the staff and the old lads as well. Sordell, and they're really good lads. So I can't thank them enough, really.
So you've been training as well, yeah? You've been. I mean, it's a serious business, really, isn't it? I mean, it looks, when you watch it on TV, the clips and the bits that I've seen of games, it looks somewhere half between like really serious football, but then you've got like guys with cameras running around on the pitch as well and stuff. So there's a little bit of a mix between it being a sort of content event and being a tournament. But you're training, you're all taking it very seriously, yeah?
Oh yeah, the main thing is that 7-a-side football is so different to 11-a-side football. So of course, in my perspective, I can't speak on that really that much because I'm not a pro player. So no matter what level I play, I'm going to look like I'm at a different level compared to everyone else, and I think that comes across. I work hard. I think I've done actually relatively decent in games I've played in. However, of course, when I get the ball, I won't have the confidence to take a man on that's at a pro level. Because last night against Reggae Rovers, most of the people in that team are Jamaican internationals, national team players, or Guyana internationals, the Trinidad Tobago internationals, Dominican. They are all players, and they're not only pro players, but they all have been playing 7-a-side football competitively for the last, I think this year alone, this is the 7th tournament they've been in for purely 7-a-side. And that's a massive, massive difference. So far, from a Burnley men's perspective, of course, the results haven't really gone our way. But I don't think, honestly, no one is taking too much of a shame in that, because we're looking at Bayern Munich here, Inter Milan, Swansea, Wrexham, Dortmund, every established team are struggling because it is just a completely different sport. So, it's just the confidence we're talking. His tactics are completely different. So it's a really fun experience. And the best part as well, we've got the women's team as well that's starting their groups tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to seeing how they do as well, because they believe they've got a very good chance because they've got quite a good mix of sevens players and also US women's national team players as well. So that'd be really good to see.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about seven-a-side. I mean, I really like it. Like, whenever I played it when I was younger, and also when I watched similar things to this in the past elsewhere, it's quite, it's end-to-end, isn't it, in the way that five-a-side is, but there's more to it than five-a-side. It seems like it is a sort of nice combination of the two in a way, I think. Well, you've been playing in midfield, have you? Sort of.
I think I put more out wide. I was like a sort of wide player. So in the first game against Natty, I was kind of more as a left-sided defender or midfielder, I guess you could say. And then again, last night, I think I spent the most chunk of it on the right-hand side, I believe. But I know defensively, that's where I think I'm decent at. I don't think defensively I've actually been that bad in terms of 1v1 situations. I don't think I've been done dirty. But I know that if I get the ball up top, my plan is just to pass it to the actual good players as fast as I can, really. I've actually got a lot more minutes than what I expected, really. And Jenks, the manager for us for this event, if we need energy, we've got a mix of ex-players and academy lads as well. We've got quite a small squad as well compared to other teams. So I've played a lot more minutes than I actually thought I would have, to be fair, because I track back, and that's what I know I can offer. I run my marathons and that, so I know I can provide that. So yeah, it's been honestly just a complete incredible experience, and I'm just so happy about it, really, because for me, from a personal perspective, that the results is secondary. For my side, of course, you still want to win games. You still got that competitive edge, but you can't let it drown out the experience we've got over as well, because it's all about kind of just making the most out of it and just appreciating the opportunity that we've got over it. And we've got a game tonight against Concafos on the ESPN as well, and the main championship field, the main field where the biggest stands are. So we've got a big chance tonight to, no matter what happens tonight, go out and have fun with it, really, and just try to really showcase because we've got some great young players. Marcel, Ronaldo, both really good young lads, and I just need to what's the word I'm looking for? Just basically just let yourself loose and just play your game, really, and have fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, that game that you've got coming up, it's Pat McAfee's team, who for listeners who aren't familiar with the media landscape in America, presents basically the biggest talk show on ESPN, the sports network in the States. And he's coming up against JJ Watt, who regularly appears on his show as well. And there's a lot of banter gone on there over the years. There was a little clip came out with one of his staff and the donut queue and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was really funny.
But maybe what's JJ been like to be around? Because I'm not sure if Burnley fans, they all know he's an ex-NFL player and a star and so on, but I'm not sure if all Burnley fans quite appreciate just how big a celebrity he is in the United States. I mean, what's it been like being around him?
I mean, from a personal level, he's a sweetheart. Really, every single person from our side as well, just within the entire group, from the staff members to myself to the players to everyone. He's so easy to talk to, so friendly in that regard. For the night before our game, so that would have been on Tuesday night, we went out to some sort of golf sim place just for kind of team bonding thing, and everyone gets together. And I spent the vast majority of the night talking to him. And talk to about his time at Burnley, and kind of how it's kind of all gone down for this the last year and a half he's been here, and he's so easy to talk to in that regard. Which of course is the thing is, because we're from back home, we're from England, we actually really have no idea about how big he really is.
Oh yeah, he's massive.
He gets swamped every single time he steps outside his house. I mean, just like here, I mean, just like at the event here, every single person wants a photo of him. Every single person wanted to sign something, and like, yeah, it's I don't think we really appreciate like how big he really is, and probably how much impact he actually really has, expanding the Burnley brand and the Burnley football club brand in the States, because he's absolutely huge. But with me, he's been really kind to me, and I had some really good talks with him as well, and it's just been a really just fascinating and humbling experience, honestly. And he's actually not that bad as well when it comes to, like, if you get the ball up in the air to him, he is actually a scary guy. He's a scary guy.
I saw one of his challenges with the keeper there, yeah, and he nearly bagged, didn't he? He had a shot at the near post that the keeper got down to quite well, so he nearly got his moment, yeah.
It was on target as well. It went bottom right corner. Like, it's not like he completely fluffed it. It was actually a decent strike to bottom right, but just a really good save. I mean, the keeper that was in that game, I believe, is like another like international for like some national team as well. I don't know the exact rules, but there's a weird mix of players here which like are actually active players, but like because they're kind of out of a contract right now, this current time being, but like they're still like in their 20s, but because they're currently out of contract, technically they're allowed in here. I don't know exactly what the rules are. There's a real like I don't know how strict they really should be, but it's really odd because there's some players here, like there's the Stephen Ireland's team. They've got pretty much like 10 players in there that are all relatively recent retired like Premier League players.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pull that one off, but like of course there's seen like Aguero live and Nani and Maserati. I mean, the fact that for me I can go have a conversation with Nani for like a minute or so, and because he sees me as a player, he thinks I'm one of them. I'm like got imposter syndrome a bit here. He thinks I'm a player, like an actual footballer. So that's been a weird one to kind of dance around with.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, just on terms of that, it's really good to hear what you were saying about JJ. Well, that's how I imagined he'd be, to be honest. He comes over very well in his media persona as well, but I imagine he does look a really solid, down-to-earth sort of bloke. But what in terms of like what it means for Burnley, I mean, there are some fans who are like a little bit puzzled by it back home, looking at it and saying, this is a Burnley team. What's the point of this? We've had, we're getting 7 put past us at a tournament. Is this really, what's it doing for the brand and all that? I mean, what were you sort of given the idea of what this is about for Burnley? What's the benefit for the club as you see it and you guys out there?
I mean, I'm just a player, so I can't speak on behalf of like the board and whatever teams out there that is out there. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're still interested in making a team for next year. And now, from the experience from this time round, they're going to go out and potentially get some players involved that maybe more experienced at 7-a-side football for this type of thing, mixed in with some Burnley players as well. Right. I mean, it's one of them where like. I think for Burnley, because we are just we're kind of a bit tribal-ized, but we're a local Milltown club. We always see ourselves as almost the underdogs in every aspect. So seeing us in a kind of the American world, and you're trying to see us in the eyes of your international viewers, there's almost some that may not want that because like it's ours, it's not theirs, it's ours. So like you kind of want to keep it to like your group, and I completely get that because I'm Burnley born and bred, so like I get that, I completely. But like, there's so many like fans over here. There's so many like from that's come to the event here. It's really good to see. Like there's like a meet and greet area after the first game that I went to, and there was about like 40 odd people there waiting. Luca he dropped by as well, so Lucas dropped in, just randomly because I believe he's here with the Manhattan Kickers because I think that's where he started his career.
It is, yeah.
So he came over it because he's part of their kind of group, but he came over as well for the Burnley lads as well. I spoke to Luca as well for about 10, 15 minutes or so, and I mean, again, really chill dude, and of course he's looking forward for the new season. So
is he fit? Is he ready to go?
Oh, well, I didn't speak too much about his injury, but when I said that, how you're feeling, he said that, he's ready to go. So, like, he's looking forward to the new season. So, he seems like he's in good spirits. So, yeah, in terms of, I guess, the brand of Burnley, there's a lot of people around here that's just really happy to see the likes. Of course, JJ is the main one for example, but like even people like Chris Eagles and the Academy lads as well, like they are really about football over here, really, especially North Carolina too. So, of course, no one wants to come all the way over and like lose 7-1 for example last night. But in reality, I mean, we're seeing Inter Milan 0-2 as well. We're seeing Bayern Munich 0-2. We're seeing Dortmund, Swansea, like all the established teams that may not have actual 7-a-side players or has really trained for this. Because we're playing teams like TST that they've been training for the last 4 or 5 months. Like that team is literally, not only were they in this event last year, so they've got the experience, but also their entire team or the FC Cincinnati, the MLS team, their academy lads, also the ex-pros, and they've been training at their training ground for the last 4 months straight, preparing for this. So again, there's no shame in it whatsoever. Like, absolutely. And
no. And it's not about the results, really, is it?
As well. We got a women's team, which I'm really looking for, because like they should have a pretty good chance. So, if they go out and they go win that $1 million, I don't know if we could take a little like $100 or something from like a prize pool just to like say we cheered them on. We could get the cheerleader, the cheerleader bonus onto that or something. I don't know, but they could get like a tax on it. But yeah, like it's been a really fun experience, and like just seeing everyone over it is really friendly, and just again, like I can't really believe I'm here. I'll be honest, and it's a real honor to just kind of speak to all the lads, and they've been really good with me, so I can't thank them enough, really.
Brilliant. No, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic experience. I think it's great that they reached out and got you involved as well. I think it's a really nice thing they've done there, and brilliant for you. How many games you got left now then? So you got another game tonight. That'll be your third game. In the group stage, how many do you have altogether?
3 games in the group, and then tomorrow would be the knockouts. But that's round of 32, round of 16, and then next day will be quarters and semis. So like whoever wins this tournament, they've deserved it, because the main thing is also like injuries as well. Because we've got quite a small squad, like just to go back and forth, because it's very intense, the games. It's 7-a-side. It's a completely different game in terms of how much you're moving around. So whoever wins this tournament, they absolutely deserve it, because like it's absolutely it's like you see some games there because of the rules of target score. There's some games that they go down to 2v2 and 1v1 in the end, and they've got their goalkeepers, which is actually being subbed by an outfield player with a bib on. And it's all tactically done in that way. It's crazy sometimes. You've seen so many goals from across the pitch being scored because keeps outside the box. You've seen just massive mad comebacks. So now the Stephen Ireland team, that with all like the pro players from Premier League, Tom Huddleston, Mari Apper, Stephen Ireland, Umo Niasi, I think Troy Deeney was meant to be in there, but I don't think it's actually, yeah. All pro players, they were 4-0 up at full time. Target score time went, and he lost 5-4.
Wow.
It's just, and these are professional players that retired not even that long ago, and they're being beat 5-4 from a comeback. So it's a different game completely, really. But the most important part is we've got one more game to go to really just enjoy, appreciate, the event that we're in right here. And I mean, I'm not a pro player. They are. I think it probably hits them more deeply, the fact, of how the fact we lost yesterday, because as an athlete, which they are, I mean, no one wants to lose. So it probably hits them a lot more than me, because I kind of know that I'm not meant to be the star player. That I'm not the one to be relying on, but I'm trying my best in terms of I'm running around as hard as I can, and I think I've done a decent job in that regard. The most I can do. But it's really funny, the game last night, because it was reggae roast, a real Caribbean group, Jamaican group, really good guys as well, because after the game they all came over and wished us well and that. But it was just times that they just they speak around during the game, and they each time I got the ball, it was like, oh, go get the little white boy, go get the little white boy. I'm like, I can't even say anything, because I am a little white boy compared to these guys. Look at my arms. I'm not really going to be holding the ball too much. So I know Marvin Ball, he's at centre back, and he's like, I am pissed, because they're just saying these things, and it's like they can't even say anything back because they just keep popping it around. They're really good players. So it's a really good, like, again, there's no issues in terms of the teams have played against. They've all been really nice to us as well. So tonight's game's on ESPN. It's on the main field. There'll be probably a lot of fans there because of both Pat McAfee and also JJ. So we got one chance as well. There's actually a slight chance we could actually make it through. A goal difference is going to be a big problem for us, but because of how they lost the other day, the Pats team with Natty, if we get 5 or 6 or 4, whatever, and they also lose 4, whatever, you never know. It's been a crazy group, but just want to go out on a high, really. Worst case scenario.
Enjoy every minute of it, mate. Appreciate you taking some time out from all this fun to update us on what it's been like. It's been great to hear from you.
Likewise, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I will try to enjoy North Carolina as much as I can.